our studio. Catch them all in Muse Talks.
Hi everyone, welcome back to a new episode of Muse Talks. I'm your host for today's episode, Charley. In today's episode, we have two very familiar and special guests who are the original hosts of Muse Talks. They are Sha and Salihin.
Hello. Thank you for getting us to be interviewed instead of us interviewing someone.
How does it feel to be on the other side, you know?
Actually, we're still on this side, right?
Yeah, physically we are still on the same side.
No, but like
It's
different.
just that on the receiving end.
Yeah, so you guys are actually same generation as like a lot of Gen Z's like parents. And like,
Ooh,
my mom
that's
keeps
true.
telling me,
Your parents
Every
are,
time.
we
Your
are
parents
probably
are-
your parents'
Yeah.
generation.
Yeah.
they keep telling me every time, back in my days, I did this, I did that. And sometimes I'm like, huh? Like that also, ayo, too long with that. But actually now I'm very curious, you know. Like hearing from a different person from like the same generation as my parents, right? I want to hear more, you know. Is it just really, is it really like that? Is it what my
Okay.
mom says? She would share stories with me about how she used to stay at her grandma's house in like kampung or that like, you know, last time before, you know, smartphones became a thing, social media became like
Yeah.
very big nowadays, right? And I'm just curious, you know, like what was it like back then? Was it really like just you and chickens and everything else?
Okay, so that's like about growing up, huh?
Yeah, a bit about.
Okay, no. I grew up in flats, sorry.
Oh, you flat,
yes,
huh? Okay.
yes.
I had kampung life a bit. So it was totally outdoors. No indoor games. During the day, it's too hot anyway to stay inside the house, right? So we go out, we spend our days outside, and then the parents will just shout and scream for meal times to come back. And then the older kids, they will, if Saturday and Sunday, they'll disappear the whole day. Sometimes they just stay overnight somewhere in some forest or
Yeah.
whatever.
Okay, I had a bit of that experience in kampung, but that was usually during like festive season, you know, for Hari Raya. Then we go back to my mom's kampung in Malaysia. Yeah, so yeah, that was fun.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no phone, so you basically have to interact with, you know, people around you, more physical activities in that sense.
You know what's
chasing.
the irksome thing about growing up without handphones back then, you know? Which we didn't feel, of course. We didn't know there's such thing as handphones, right? When you make appointments with your friend at 2 o'clock, and if your friends are late, you never know whether they are coming or they're not coming.
Yeah.
Because there's no way they can tell you that, hey, hello, I'm late, kind of
Correct,
thing.
correct. But we didn't have that problem.
We don't have that problem.
Yeah, everybody would just, you know, show up.
Yeah, because we didn't know the alternative anyway. Right? We
correct.
didn't know there's
Yes.
another life.
Then how y'all write letter to your friends?
Actually, we do. Penpals, remember?
Yes.
So I don't know whether you guys know what penpals. It's a thing, right? When you write letters to people outside of your country, and then they write back, and then you know that is a thing.
Yeah.
But how did that even happen? Like how do you all even know those people overseas? Like
Okay,
y'all just-
because I think newspaper would have some.
Yeah, they would have this kind of
Column,
thing,
right?
like
Yeah,
columns,
yes.
and those who wants to register themselves
Yeah.
to be pen pals with other people.
Okay, and teen magazines.
Teen
Yes,
magazines.
yeah. So you can actually connect with people overseas. Yeah, because they're trying to make friends from people out of the country too.
is there like anything that you don't understand about the younger generation now or whatever?
Oh Lord!
How do you want to get us started? I mean, which part?
Like maybe like from the way we communicate, I guess.
You're not replying on time. There's no updates. Yeah, so we need to, you know, keep reminding. Yeah, you know, you have to be accountable for when especially you are involved or, you know, have a plan with another person. I know that, you know, these digital devices are very native to you. So you might have like in your mind, okay, I will reply shortly, but you know, 5 minutes become like 50 minutes, and then it's like what the next day already. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there's a lot of things that you need to keep track of, lah. Yeah. So whenever you see a message, try to quickly. I mean, for us too, sometimes we do miss out, you know, your messages too as well. Yeah.
We feel that I'm sounding so old. Sometimes you guys do not know when to be formal and when not to be formal. Right? Especially when talking to your boss and all those.
Yep.
Try to avoid using things like, oh, my bad. kind of thing, right? Like we already see something that's not done correctly, and then the last I want to see somebody mention, "Oh, my bad." You just say, "Oh yeah, it's my fault." Sorry, we decided not to do it again. Blah blah. But things like that, I feel probably you guys feel it's normal. But when you are talking to different generation or even someone who's in higher authority, that may not be suitable.
But to begin with, I think start with introducing yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, at least address the person, not just hello. And I'm like, hello who?
Because I think like nowadays social media is like very unserious and stuff, right? So like, I think because like for Gen Z we kind of live in like social media stuff, right? Then it's like we are too used to like seeing all these like unserious things happening on the internet. Then after that then we accidentally like bring it into like work situations, which is like kind of awkward, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I'm going to ask you now. How are you? What do you think like now, like collaborating or working with older folks like us? Do you guys go, yeah, these old people are
Not old people lah. Mostly like we just like wondering. Like sometimes we would think, is this really okay for us to say? Because I'm an overthinker lah, honestly. So every time like people say something, right, then I'll think, did I say this wrong? Because sometimes the reactions are like very different compared to like people in our generation. Like for example, if I say something like, oh, I'm so sorry that I did this, blah blah, then they'll be like, oh, it's fine, that kind. But like in like a work environment with like people that are older than us, then sometimes I have to be very careful with my words. Then if like you guys reply like, oh, okay, then I'll think, did I do something wrong? Like there's no elaboration, that kind,
Okay.
Yeah,
Understand.
That's because I'm an overthinker lah. I don't know about like other people for my age. I can't speak for them.
So there's a downside about having a conversation on chat, because you do not know the way the other person says that reply. Is it okay or okay or okay lah?
It's true lah, because sometimes you may interpret it differently. Yeah. You just do not know what's on the other end. Yeah, how they will perceive it.
So how do you guys actually like get into the industry?
For me, I think Ngee Poly was the only school that was offering media studies. The aggregate to get into was really high.
Very high, difficult. I remember. And then you gotta have an interview.
Correct.
Right, mass comm.
Yes.
Yeah, you gotta have an interview.
Yeah, I wanted to go into the, of course, film school lah. Yeah, then couldn't get in, so I took a private course. Then I got into JSP Films. That's where I really gained the interest of like, wanting to be an editor and all that.
You started as editor, really editing.
Started with like way below lah, tape operator. I started with how to also cut the quarter-inch tape. It's like a big...
Yeah, what is that?
What is that?
My lecturer also keep mentioning.
The cut tape.
Yeah, he keep mentioning it every time. Last time during lesson, he would say things like, last time, now you have it so easy. Now you just click the mouse can already.
Exactly. You know how difficult it is? Like, you need to edit, right?
Yeah.
So, everything is recorded into a one reel thing, right? But if, let's say, the take in between is not what you wanted, so you got to literally physically cut that whole
With the scissors?
portion. Yes.
What?
And then, you try to join it with, scotch tape or something. Okay.
Not scotch
It's
tape.
not scotch tape, like a tape. Yeah. And then after that, you try to listen. Now, you just like, everything is digital. You can do how many ever takes, without thinking of the cost of like you need to get a new reel or whatever. All you need to do is just make sure you have enough memory, right? Yeah, for your cards. So how we had to sync audio, it's from everything is through the patch bay. So once the visuals are ready, for tape operator, we will work closely with the audio engineer, and then the full mix will come from the engineering audio studio, and we will try to sync it at this
Like a
whole
studio
like a studio, like the machine machine area. So he will do the countdown, and then I will have to press the insert button, just so that everything is synced properly.
There's a lot of work and a
lot
lot of people
a lot
involved.
of people involved. It's
Yeah.
quite laborious, because
So-
we have to be on standby, and then the audio engineer also has to be on standby, that kind of thing. Yeah.
So in this industry, I think the advance of technology really benefited
Yeah.
us in
Yeah.
one way, in some ways, right? faster,
Correct.
easier. Is it easier? Probably.
Now you're talking about
Yeah,
now, right?
processing is much
Definitely.
easier.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Because we don't have that central machine room anymore, the tape room. Yeah, it's all done in just one workstation.
Yeah, again, technology in this industry really helps. But at the same time, human factor is still much needed.
Yeah.
Was there like a jump from use tape, then suddenly they came up with new technology that you don't have to use tape anymore? Or was it
Oh
like
yes.
gradual?
Have you heard of CDs or DVD?
Oh yes.
Yes. So
So that was the interim. That was the transition period. People use a lot of CDs.
I feel like nowadays like CDs and even like DVDs are like becoming so nostalgic. Even though this came out like a few
right.
a few
It was
years ago,
really
yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Like when I was still a kid, I still use like CDs and DVDs. But then like nowadays, like I see it in like thrift shops
Yeah.
or like Salvation Army, that
Yeah.
kind, right?
Yeah,
like it's
yeah.
already in there. Like it's becoming something that's so like obsolete already. Like
Yeah,
people don't even
correct.
use it anymore.
Yep.
Before that, before your CDs were cassette tapes. So we grew up in cassette tapes, right? So when you want to see tapes are at that type, but this is a smaller version like cassette tapes, film tapes.
Do you actually buy?
Actually, yes. I recently went to Japan and I went to a CD store and they sold like so many like CDs that people didn't want anymore and they donated it. And then I found some of my favorite artists stuff and they had like in the jewel case. So I just
Wow.
bought them and it was really cheap and I was like, this is a good investment.
Do you know you can create your own CDs, like blank CDs, and then you
Oh, burn the CD,
Yes.
right? Yes. My father told me about it.
I like that term nowadays. So so you collect all these songs, you plug don't know from where, download illegally, and then you put in a CD and then you burn it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing when you do your
Same
collection
concept,
for the cassette.
cassette tapes.
Yeah. Remember?
Yeah,
When
but
you have to press record, play record.
Play and record button, I gotta press together. Click.
Yeah, that was fun actually.
If not, it wouldn't record.
Maybe I should try that one day. I asked my grandmother.
And then you know how we created our favorite top 10 list of songs.
No.
So every
You listen,
weekend
radio,
there's this
radio.
radio top 10. They will have this program lah. Top 10 for the week, top 100 for the week. So you will wait with an empty cassette, right? For the songs that you know are gonna come out, right? Because it's on the chart, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this song I don't have yet. So the DJ stopped talking. the song that you record.
Record.
So I think this was really very fun and cheap thrill lah. But then
Yeah.
again, it works lah. Yeah, because you don't actually buy because cassette was actually
And
quite
then if
expensive,
you're
right?
interested in some girls, right? You know what kind of songs they like. You do special lists.
Yes, it's
then
true,
you write
it's
down all
true.
the songs, right? 10 songs, and you give the girl. Wow,
my
they're so
gosh.
happy, so
Yeah.
touched. Oh,
But it's quite creative, okay?
Yeah, but
right.
it's so cute though. Like
Yeah.
a lot of
nowadays,
effort, no.
yeah, like
Yes.
things that like actually I find that very interesting because like nowadays it's so boring, you know. You see on a video, then after you go to Spotify, then it's just like top 10 of the week, then it's just there. Like you
Yeah.
don't actually have to do
Correct.
anything.
Not much
Nothing,
effort.
right?
Yeah,
Nothing.
There's
It's
no like there's no like
instant gratification.
yeah, you have no emotional connection to it.
That's a very good topic to talk about. Instant gratification. Yeah, when everything comes so fast and so easy.
Yes.
It doesn't build up the patience and
Correct.
resilience
Yep.
towards working, to a result. So I think that is something is the end result of Gen Z. Is what the bosses are not happy with Gen Z. Not so much resilience, and then the process of creativity is lacking. as well.
Lacking. It's true. They don't understand the whole process.
I think also that comes from like nowadays, like there's like a lot of short form content out there, like TikTok. It's too easy to create already, you know.
Correct.
Yeah. There's like you just see it, then swipe. Don't really care about what goes on behind it.
Yeah,
and stuff.
exactly. So how do you feel about that? I mean, like, with all those instant and because you're taking this course, right?
Yeah.
More or less, when you look at the content, there's not much thought to it.
Yeah.
And then it's been done by AI or whatever. So how do you feel about, those kind of content?
Honestly, it's not that I'm against it, but it's more of like I feel like sometimes you can use it, but there should be like a bit of work that you yourself put into.
Needs to be a lot of research also involved, especially when there are certain themes or message that you want to put across, right? Yeah, that one need to be very careful lah. I mean, AI is there. You use it to help you maybe, just suggest some ideas, but I think at the end of the day, it still has to be, your what comes from you and team lah. Yeah.
That sense of accountability
Correct.
is much reduced if you depend everything on ChatGPT and
Yeah.
AI. Right? Because you're just typing out the thing, then the thing comes up.
Yeah.
Then your boss say, hey, how come your work now? This. You don't have that, this is my work kind of feel to it. Okay, no happy. Then you just do another prompt, right?
Yeah.
So that the ownership, the pride, accountability, that is something that you need to develop over the years and have an understanding towards that. If not, you're not working towards that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's just everything is just chop ma.
Yeah.
Instant gratification kind of thing.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we are running out of time for this
Aiya,
episode.
got part two,
I wanted
no?
to talk more, lah, but now we have 5 this or that questions, and you have to answer. Would you rather have this? Would you rather have that? And then briefly just explain why.
Okay.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yep.
Okay, let's go. So first up, would you rather have physical books or would you rather have e-books?
Physical books.
Physical books for me too.
Why?
I just like to smell new books.
Yes.
And also I love to like look at the cover, you know. Yeah, it gives me the motivation.
To
Like,
read,
you know, ebooks is always in your phone. See, if I don't switch it on, I can't see anything, right? Yeah.
I'm not a very good reader, but ebooks put me to sleep much faster.
Oh?
Yeah, because I get sleepy faster reading from an ebook than physical book. Physical book, I actually have to hold it, if not the book closes.
Then
So
later
there's a
you
bit more energy.
close already, then, what page I
What
stop at?
page?
Yeah, true.
Cannot
Okay,
find.
that happened also.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, next up. Would you rather have analog or digital photography?
I love Polaroids. Yeah, because it's instant, but you know, you still have like a physical copy. Yeah, and like for digital, oh my goodness. I currently have about 8,000 photos.
Wow.
Oh my God, I can't believe like I try to clean up, but it gets more and more. So it's quite a pain, yeah.
I have to go with digital, just because it's very convenient, right? And you get to see the moment that you want to capture, right? Yeah, it's the ordinary one, you do not know whether you captured it or not, and then you lose that chance. Yeah, but definitely like what she said. After that, you got to clean up, lah.
I mean, storage-wise, you know, now flats are getting smaller and smaller. How am I going to store, all the photos? Yeah, I'll have like, pile up of albums, photo albums in my home. I don't think so, yeah.
Yeah, photo albums,
Yeah.
Goodness.
Next question, but this is more of like which one would you prefer? Do you prefer kampung culture or HDB culture?
Kampung culture.
Kampung culture. Yeah, as of now, I think there are a lot of talk, bringing in the whole kampung spirit. I think, because of, the hustle and bustle, we tend to forget that we are living with people around us. Yeah, so having the kampung spirit is very important. You never know when you need help. Yeah.
But kampung culture without handphones. Because because if not, there's no point. You live in the kampung now, everybody inside their own house.
Next question. Would you rather listen to the radio or use music apps?
Radio. Okay, now this
Are
one.
you sure?
I'm getting-
Recently, I've been listening to radio.
Oh,
All I hear
okay,
is just advertisements.
Oh, advertisements, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
true.
Because most of your radio DJs
DJ
are no longer on radio, right?
You're right, you're
Yeah.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
So the DJ chatter last time was more entertaining than present.
Yeah.
And then less advertisements.
Okay, next question. Would you rather read newspaper for news or would you rather get news updates on social media?
Wow, that's not exactly a tricky question, but then again, news like getting very slow with the news. So, and these days, people are so impatient, right? They want to be the first to know. Social media, I think, works for now. But of course, you will have to back up with, the real situation, or, just don't fall for fake news lah.
I would prefer old newspapers rather than the new ones. Although speed is very slow lah. Right? Yeah, because of all this recent, trashy stuff disguising as news. Right? And you are not, like for us, we are, I was a trained journalist. Even sometimes I kena fooled, like, hey, is this real or is this fake kind of thing? up to a point that I just gave up. Like Kaya, I just couldn't be bothered with the news.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
So you just read newspapers for like the authenticity and stuff like that.
Official.
Official news.
Yeah, but then again, it's just too slow, right?
Yeah.
Like you said. That's not yesterday's news already.
No, just yesterday it's like 3 days late. Oh my god.
Yeah, lah. Then you have to be. So the thing is, you have to be very, very conscious and smart media consumer.
Correct.
These days,
Yeah.
you know, you kena cheat left, right, center.
Yeah.
So thank you again, Sha and Salihin, for coming to
Thank
the
you.
podcast.
Thank you for
I mean,
having
you
us.
guys are the hosts,
Yes.
original hosts, but you know, very fun to interview you guys.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. For the audience, if you like today's episode, you can like, comment, and subscribe to Muse Podcast. Bye. That's a wrap from us. Thank you for watching and supporting us through our journey of Muse Talks Capstone Edition.
We hope you enjoyed this season as much as we did. We're always excited to share new ideas and inspiration with you guys. If you do have any feedback or suggestions, please reach out. We'll love to hear from you.
But not just the both of us, we would also like to thank Grace and Wen-En, who have been working tirelessly behind the scenes. This project would not have been possible without them. Also, until then, please remember to stay curious and keep your eyes peeled for future capstone collaborations with Muse. Remember to
Like,
comment,
share, and subscribe.
Thank you for your support. Bye!